Well, hi folks, welcome back to Delboy's Garage. Right, today it's time for another modification to the Triumph. Now the bike itself, we've just had 3 days away in Devon. It's just done 400 miles, I've got first service tomorrow, but it's now come time to get the second mod, the thing that I think is important, underway. Something that I'm going to use for a long time and that's going to benefit the bike with the use I have in mind. Just explaining that, I haven't really alluded to this yet. The Triumph wasn't bought because I love it and I want it as a pose bike. The Triumph's bought as a donkey. It's a work bike. This is going to work for its living. It's going to be my daily ride to work and back, and I'm going to keep it for years. If I have another bike, I'll save up, and in the future I'll get something that I might want. But for now, the Triumph is a work bus. It's going to get me to work and back. It's going to take us out and out with Penny. We're going to go out with mates on it, and it's going to go alongside the Bandit and do all the work all right through the winter and so on. It's not a pose bike. I didn't spend and save up and spend all this money on a new bike to find it's just going to be used on Sundays. I actually intensely disagree with that. I really do. I think it's a terrible shame to see a bike 3 or 4 years old with 1,000 miles on it. That's just awful. It's a real waste and a shame. This bike, they come with a 6-figure odometer, and I've set myself a challenge. I want to do 100,000 miles on this bike. I do indeed. That's a big challenge, it really is, but it's only 10 years at 10,000 miles a year. It's reasonably quick to add up. Since I've had the Bandit, which has been 3 years, Ben, we've done 25,000 miles on the Bandit in 3 years, almost there, and that's been mixing it with the bike. As a rider, I do about 12,000 miles a year, and the Bandit's going to get relegated very slightly. It's becoming more focused. Once the new year comes, it will come back off the road, the front end project will begin. So really and honestly, the Triumph's here to do the work. And on that note, I have to make the next modification. The mods on this, there are people who want to see perhaps Öhlins forks getting put on and billet parts and all this sort of stuff. Honestly, that's not what the bike's for, that's not what it's about, so it's not going to happen. What the mods will be is to make this more practical, more usable, longer lived, and cheaper to live with. One of the reasons that maybe choose the Triumph wasn't because, I mean it was, I love it, it's British, I like flying the flag, the old red, white and blue, yep, absolutely, all of that. But also, a set of tyres for this are only £120. Which is the cost of one front tyre for the Hayabusa. The service interval 6,000, which is double, that is 3.5 on the Hayabusa. And things like fuel, 60 to the gallon, that's brilliant. Brake pads, only 2 pairs, not 3. All of these costs, gaiters on the front. When you look at that, you haven't got fork seals to worry about because they don't go. Bikes with gaiters virtually never break their fork seals. And all of that adds up to a bike I can live with for many, many years. It's not going to cost much. So to that end, I've had to think about, before I go fitting fancy pants bits on that are going to look cool, which I will do, the exhaust is going to sound great and all that, but it's a big investment, got to save up for that. Most importantly is to deal with the long-term consumable parts. Now, not the short-term consumables like fuel and oil, stuff like that, but the long-term stuff like tyres, chain sprockets, brake pads. Those things wear out. Now, one thing that Triumph are very well known for is armadillo engines. They last forever. There is a very famous, or call it infamous, what you like, case of a Trident 900 that did 250,000 miles. It was a dispatch company bike. It worked night and day for 5 years, and they rode it round the clock 2.5 times. And even then, it was just a water pump bearing that went, which could have been replaced, but they gave it to Triumph, and I believe they still own it somewhere. It is one of these engines you can ride around the world, and I intend to. But one of the things I read about that bike that did those miles was that it did about 20 sets of chains and sprockets, it did 30 sets of tyres, it did 50 gallons of oil, and all of that you have to consider. Right back today, at 400 miles on the clock, barely running, I'm going to start thinking about that now. And today I'm going to be taking the chain and sprockets. I'm not going to change it because it's got a perfectly good one it came with. When I change the chain and sprockets in the future, I will put something more long-lived on because they come with a reasonably cooking version. It's okay, it's not a DID, but it'll do the job, and it's free, it came with the bike. But what about the maintenance of that chain? We did a video, if you remember, just a little while ago on cleaning and lubricating the chain and sprockets, and that's a very important thing. There are, in some ways, there are 4 ways. If you look at it this way, there are 4 ways to look after the chain and sprockets. You can spray it with a dry lubricant, one of the PTFE basic dry lubes, which is great, but you need to kind of do it every time you ride, and they're expensive, £10–12 a tin now, and that's going to add up. Secondly, you've got your standard, ordinary chain lube you spray on, and they've got special formulas in them that don't fling off and disappear, but that basically is glue added to the formula, and that makes them sticky, which makes your chain and sprockets into a flypaper, which then gathers grit, dust, and compounds that are going to broken bits of glass, powdered glass off the roads. The roads are covered in all sorts of vicious aggregate, and they're going to get on the chain, attracted to it by the sticky stuff, and it's just going to grind it away and shorten its life. So they're actually, in some ways, self-cancelling. Then there's the waxy lubricants, which you use for the winter, and they coat the chain. The next mod for the Triumph is something that I've been meaning to look into, and it's come to light after the last video. After the last video, Scottoiler actually contacted us. We had an email from them because the 365 video did very well. People loved it. Many people had not heard of it before, and we brought it to a wider audience. And they asked us if we'd have a look into the Scottoiler. Now, if you've never heard of a Scottoiler, I'll show you what it is. The Scottoiler is a brand, basically. I'm going to explain it for those who've never seen one. This is the new current 2013 Scottoiler V system. It's a simple product. It's a canister of oil that has a little tube that drips oil down onto your chain all the time. I'll come to the details later, but that's the basic principle. You carry a little quantity of oil on the bike and it drips onto your chain. It has a little valve that opens by vacuum. You pick a vacuum off the engine, has a little tube, you connect it all up, you adjust it right so it does one drip every minute, maybe two at the most in winter, and it drips oil onto your chain constantly. Now that takes me back to what we were saying in previous videos about primary chains. Because your primary chain in your Harley Davidson lives in a bath of oil, they'll outlast the engine 100,000 miles or more because they live in oil all the time. So if you can put oil, because ultimately the oil in these things is just oil. It's got nothing sticky in it, it's got no wax in it, it's got no fancy powders in it, it's just oil. And it's the very best thing for your chain. Personally, many years ago, my dad said to me the best thing to do when you're finished after a day's work, get home. He used to keep a jar of sump oil in the shed with a paintbrush in it, and you just pick the back of your bike up with the main stand, run the back wheel around and paint the chain. That's all he used to do, paint the chain with sump oil almost every night after work. In the morning it's dripped off onto a cloth or a bit of paper. In the morning, wipe it around, go to work. And these chains were never rusty and they always lasted, and I think that's the same principle as this. Now, we've all heard of the Scottoiler. Some people shun them. Oh, spawn of the devil, big nasty filthy mess all up the back of your bike. If you get them adjusted wrong, yes, they would spray too much oil and it would fling off and make a bit of a mess, but that's just adjustment, simple as that. And for me, with the distance I intend to do on the Triumph, with the years I intend to ride this, I want to keep the chain and sprockets lasting. So let's look at some figures. An unlubricated chain, just with a bit of grease on it, it's going to last you no time at all. Especially in the weather in this country, you're going to be looking at maybe 5 to 10,000 miles and it'll be shot. Rusted, stretched, horrible, dangerous. Also, they can break because they can overheat. They have to be lubricated. If you're looking at just oiling them with oil, you've got to keep that up every single day. If you're spraying them with spray lubes, you might get 12 to 20,000 miles if you're really meticulous. But I know for a fact, having used them in the past, with a Scottoiler, you're going to get 40,000 miles out of a chain. You really are. Now look at the cost of a chain and sprockets. What are we looking at? £120, 125? That's a lot of money. Now one of these things will cost you, on average, depending on where you buy it, between £60 and £70 for the V-System kit. But there's a great thing. I've spoken to Scottoiler and they have agreed that if you're doing this video, they've given us a discount code so we can get 13% discount on these. If you want to buy one, so many people bought the FS365, that squirt on oil stuff. If that's going to happen on this video, and if people want to buy these after what we've done today, then it's 13% discount. There'll be a code at the end, so stick around for that. So let's have a look what's in the box. First thing you get is a little canister. Just want to take this out of its. That's all it is. Simple canister that clips onto the bike, and that's where the oil goes. That's the thing that it clips into. It just fits on a frame rail. I'm going to show you where in a minute. That goes on there and you fill it up. It's got a couple of little features. Comes with a pot of oil, and obviously you can buy this. The oil itself, there's a light oil for summer, which is blue, and there's a red oil for winter, which is a bit thicker, but you can choose to use what you want. I've even heard of people using chainsaw oil. Not a great idea because it's not going to work with your warranty. These things are warranted for 2 years from the date of purchase. So if you're going to have the warranty work, you don't want to go screwing up the seals. And this oil's cheap, it's not expensive. You get a couple of tubes, one vacuum tube and one delivery tube. It's extremely simple. Now, as far as regards fitting it, we're not going to do a how-to. I did think about it, didn't we, Pen? But personally, your bike might be different. You might not have one of these on your bike, you might not have a Triumph. If you're going to fit one to your bike, the greatest thing is they come with motorcycle-specific instructions. There's a couple of things. In the system itself, in with the V-System box, you get a full set of instructions. absolutely idiot proof. Even I can follow them. Absolute piece of cake, and I'm going to fit mine in a minute, give you a couple of insights, but it won't be a full-on how-to. And this is the best bit. This you download. You go onto scottoiler.com and you just download that, print it off for yourself, for your bike. So whatever bike you've got, they are absolutely specific. And what I like about it, for instance, is it shows you precisely where to take the vacuum takeoff from. With modern fuel-injected bikes, many fuel-injected bikes, they don't have, you can't use the wrong vacuum. You'll screw up the fuel injection. You have to use the right one. Scottoiler have tested all that. They tell you exactly which one to use, the little red arrow, and full instructions. All I did was print these off, poke it through the laminator so it doesn't get greasy in the garage. Right, so I'm going to bung this on the bike, and I'll show you a little bit of where it fits and how it goes, and at the end filling it up so it works. So stick around, stay tuned. Scottoiler V system, let's see how it goes. Okay, unblank your factory blank and use the one you're told to use in the instructions, because they've already checked that it's the right one. Push that on there as your vacuum. Might as well make a neat job of it. Okay. Right, last tube. Right. Now the idea of this little tube, this is the hard tube, albeit plastic. It's inserted in there, this double ring, so it's completely fixed in there, and that's just a little insulator. Just line it up at the end before you trim it off, and that goes up to that end. Give you a little Jubilee clip. I guess if you wanted to, you could improve on this. You could just put a different clip on, something a little bit tidier looking, and I might just replace it later on with something a little bit nicer. Clip that down so it's nice and tight, not going anywhere, and that's just going to bend out the side. Clips on there. Now, back over the top, next to the washer. Now once it's bolted in place, make sure you're not trapping the hose. That's it there. And when you bolt it on, it's only made, this is literally a piece of aluminium, very soft. Make sure that's not trapped under there. We'll adjust that in a second. Good and tight. And torque that up at the end. This obviously needs to play against the sprocket, because you don't inject the oil, you don't play the oil onto the chain, you play it into the sprocket. Centrifugal force takes it out into the links. Right, then you cut off the excess and you trim it so that your chamfered end, so that you chamfer the end in, so you get the flat opening rubbing against it. And just to make sure you haven't kinked anything at any point, just blow down it. Let's make sure it's nice and clear. Now, at this point, just have to route the rest of the tube along the swing arm, route everything up. Sorry, mate. Just have to route everything along and connect it back to the unit. That's the two hoses we've connected and the unit's connected. Now we've just got to plumb it together. And there we are. Once that's absolutely correct, you can always bend this and manipulate it to get it right. And this is plastic, so you just trim it off. You get 2 spare ones of those. In fact, you get loads of spares. And all I've done, you get these little rather convenient 3M sticky clips, sticky pad clips. You get an alcohol wipe, so you just clean that, stick it on. I've led mine along. I've led it under the swing arm. Get the old light there, pen. So mine goes underneath the swing arm, completely out of sight, and it merges the other side with the brake line, where I'll run it up to the bottom of the canister, which is there. So that's just another 3 or 4 inches just to clip that in, shove it on. Right, let's plug it all in. This is just a little bit of bully for me, because I'm a little bit like that. I like a pretty installation, they've got to look good. And it goes up there, and it plugs in. This is the oil feed tube, plugs in at the bottom of the old thingamajig. The RMV. That's about there, that's fine. And the great thing is, if you get it wrong, it's only plastic tube, you can buy it anywhere. There we are. That just shoves on to the little brass union. It's only dropped in. Right. It's just all these things are just a case of routing it wherever you think you're happiest, that you'll make the neatest looking installation. And as you can see, you get plenty of spares, enough to do that twice, I think. Just going to give that a little bit of slack. The reason I want that clip on there fed through the frame is that it gives a little bit of slack and it prevents that from bending back. Gives it a nice snug fit. Snap that one off. And then poke that in out of sight. Right, another one there. Obviously, whenever you put cable ties on your frame, just be a little careful not to do them too tight, because they'll chafe away at the paint over the period of time, and obviously the soft thing that they're holding, whether it be wiring or whatever, they only literally need to be gently done like that. That's fine, don't need to be any tighter than that. And then nip them off with about 3mm spare so they don't pop undone. Drop that out of sight. Okay. Now there we are, that's the final connection in there. We've got the connected hose underneath. Now we've got to do is pop the vacuum in there. So I'm just going to give myself probably that much slack so that there's a nice loop up there out the way, not too tight. And if I get it wrong, I've got enough there to do it again, I reckon twice. So pop that one in about there. And then you just pop that straight in the top in the rubber hose, which is a nice soft silicone hose. Just accepts it beautifully, just slides in. Get your fingers in there. This is half the problem. When you make a neat install, you can't get to it. The breather it's filling to the line of this yellow cap. That's where the hole is that this is being forced in through. And you fill it on the prime setting, so it leaves everything wide open, all the valves are open. Can't see it very well, there we are. Do. That's it. So just take that off, and then there's a breather hose here, which what we do is the breather goes in where obviously you have to have air in if you're going to have oil out. So breather hose fits in there, and all I'm going to do is cable tie that to there. That just lets air in so that as it drains down it goes. Right, turn that round. It was on prime, so we'll leave it on prime for a minute. So I'm going to prime it any second. I'll just clip that up. Away. I'll breathe the hose there, and then later on you pop that off. Right, time to test the system. So there we go, Scottoiler V system. Now we've all known about Scottoilers, like I said, for many years, and the system really hasn't changed in its mechanics, but it has got a lot more streamlined. It's a lot neater and tidier. Look on the bike, you can barely see it, but it will make sure my chain is oiled all the time. As I said before, this bike's going to be a donkey. It's going to work and work and work, and hopefully I'll do 100,000 miles. And if I can get away with replacing just 3 chains in all that time, I'll be very happy. And I know for a fact, with spray lubes, not a chance, maybe 4 or 5. And that's expensive at £120 a time. So it's money well spent. Now, Scottoiler did say that the previous video we did on the FS365, that all-weather coating, it sold masses and masses of the stuff. I think M&P almost sold out of it after we put the video up. So they said very kindly that they're prepared to help us out this time and offer a discount for you. And I said to them that I don't do this in order for commercial reasons to help the company sell more of their products. I do it for the riders because I think it's a good product. And I think that if you want to use your bike all the time in all the weathers, as so many more of us are now, you need a Scottoiler. It's the only way to go. It will constantly oil your chain all the time. It's an excellent mechanical principle. It's an extremely simple piece of kit. It draws no power whatsoever from your bike. There's absolutely no wiring. It all works on simple vacuum and valves. Very adjustable, extremely keen and discreet, and honestly, a monkey boy can fit it. It's very simple. Download your own instructions. They're specific to your bike. Go on scottoiler.com, have a little look, see what you think. Now, when you do that, if you're going to buy one, Scottoiler very kindly said, in order to help you out, to help out the viewers, and to mean a bit more to us, to me and Penny, for what we make the videos for, they've suggested they're going to do a discount. So the discount's 13%. They've offered a 13% discount to the Delboy Garage viewers. All you've got to do is go online, scottoiler.com, and put in the discount code of Delboy13. So just use that as your discount code, and you'll get 13% discount when you buy it online. I think that's pretty trick, really. That's good. That's nearly £10 when you look at the purchase price of the thing itself. And once you get it, honestly, we fitted that in half an hour. Piece of cake, wasn't it, Pen? Not difficult at all. So there we are. Don't normally do commercial stuff, don't normally do promotions, but this was something I was going to fit on the Triumph anyway. And when Scottoiler stepped up and said they're prepared to help the viewers, I think that shows a British company that's moving forward and is looking to help bikers get on the road with a product that's been around for, oh my God, 20 odd plus years. I remember these when I was a teenager, and that's 30 years ago. So honestly, great product. Go and get yourself one. Delboy 13, you get 13% discount. Take it easy, ride safe. Thanks for watching. This has been Product Triumph number 3, Scottoiler V system. Go buy one. Ride safe. See you next time.